The Magic Kingdom and Disney's Animal Kingdom officially reopened today for the first time in over 4 months. The downtown Disney district at Disneyland Resort has also reopened, and speaking of reopenings, the chairman of Disney Parks and Resorts defends Walt Disney Company's position to reopen the Walt Disney World theme parks. That and so much more. It is July the 11th. King Report Live starts right now.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
King Report Live time. It's happening. Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm Wade Heath from the Warner Brothers Studios Media District here in beautiful Burbank, California, where we bring all of you, the Disney parks news, discussion topics that you need to hear. There's so much every week, it feels like, that is going on in the Disney Kingdom, and that is why we report it to you. Who is we, exactly? You might be asking. Well, we have an answer for you. We happens to be Tyler Crouch and Katrina Manzone from AttractionFaction.net. Hey, guys.
Hi. Happy Saturday, everybody.
Good to see everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Every single one.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of you, every single Saturday.
Yeah, every time. I love it. I love you all. I love it.
That's love.
The clown?
It is.
That's like
the clown, Pennywise, let's include him, sure.
it, Pennywise.
Yeah. That's all I got.
All right. Far, far away from his bunker in the middle of Nebraska, it's Walt Disney World reporter Gared Hassel. How you doing now, sir?
I am doing very good today, Wade. Happy Saturday, everyone. And today I actually have a few show and tell items, if I could do so real fast.
Please, what do you have?
As everyone knows, or if you do not know, 2 parks of Walt Disney World's 4 parks have reopened today. And in doing so, you have to follow certain rules. One of them being you have to wear facial coverings. And one of them, I have 2 examples of it. I have one that is Goofy.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think this one's kind of frightening, and it's not because of you or anything. I think they're just frightening in general. Like the Mickey Mouse one kind of frightens me too. Like it's just a little too much for me.
See, I like that one, but when I was in Costco yesterday, people were looking at me. I don't think that it's Nebraska, so who knows? But this one might be a little bit more normal. This one's got some Star Wars action on there. You got the Mandalorian symbol. You got the Empire and all that. So I have that. And then one more thing. Because Disney is trying to limit contact stuff, when you go and you sit down at a restaurant, you are now given a paper bill where on the inside it's all paper. So once it's done with that, they toss it away, so you don't have to deal with it anymore. Like you don't have to worry about the plastic ones that that.
Are we talking about menus or
18
bills?
hours a day. No, bills. I don't like the bills.
Oh, okay.
See?
Got it. Oh, so no
Yeah,
longer having the black canvas case that holds the receipt.
Yeah.
Got it.
I like that.
Yeah, and the menus for dining are now done via you look at the QR code, you scan it with your phone, and then it opens up, which I think is really, really cool.
Fancy
and
schmancy.
Adapting to technology. But that's all I have for show and tell today, folks. Tune in next time.
Imagine what else he might have for us in the future. And somebody who always has something for us, it's producer Curt from the Production Dungeon. Hello, producer Curt.
Why, hello, everyone. I have a different cup today.
A sipper, you say?
Yes, it's
What do you have there?
It's from Gaston's Tavern, actually. It's Gaston's on one side, and then
It's a Gaston
The
Stein.
Beast is on the other one. Yeah.
And
The
the
Beast.
Beast on the other side.
I don't know the
Wow.
Beast's name. Does he actually have a name? I don't actually.
There's a debate
There is
that
a
his
Adam.
name
right?
was Adam,
Adam,
right?
yeah, I think that's I think
Prince
you got it
Adam.
right on
Disney
the
officially
on the head.
no. Disney officially there is no. He's just known as the Beast.
And I've heard that too.
He's got to have a name
His
though.
name
I mean,
is Adam.
he's a human. He's technically a human being. He's got to have some kind of name, right? I mean,
He's
Probably
I was-
it's probably
I would think so,
Francois
right?
or
Yeah.
something.
But they never say anything,
Yeah.
do they? I don't
Mrs.
think-
Potts
No.
is just Mrs. Potts. That could be
Yeah.
a real
It-
last name. I mean, we don't know.
It's Master. It's just Master.
I feel like it's weird that Gaston is totally cool with the Beast being on a cup that he's selling at his tavern. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think he would be very happy with that.
No kidding.
Well, maybe you're supposed to throw the cup at the end and you
Sure,
destroy him.
sure.
I don't know.
Break that Stein.
Yeah.
But in Greece, that would be like a symbol of like being happy. So you're like the Beast, and then you throw it on the floor, and then it breaks, and then Gaston's like,
Opa!
ah, don't be happy.
I don't know where this is going anymore.
Listen,
I just brought in a cup.
It's
Let's go back to
Saturday.
you, and to keep this consistent, I need you to throw that. There
Oh,
you
no.
go.
Hopefully I didn't unplug something.
There we go. Production dungeon has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Walt Disney World, ladies and gentlemen, is back online for the first time in so long. It has been over 118 days since the theme parks last had an active operating day that you could go visit. It's unbelievable to know that it has been that long. Absolutely incredible to hear that Magic Kingdom, as well as Disney's Animal Kingdom, has officially come back online at this point. And Tyler, Katrina, Gared, it sounds like a lot of previews have happened this past week leading into the official reopening of these parks. What have you heard? Anything positive, anything negative? Katrina, we'll start with you.
that's like very mixed.
Yeah.
Depends on the timing. I mean, again, with like cast previews, there was like hit and miss. There's like a infamous photo that was released by a website that showed clustering by Seven Dwarf Mine Train. And then the same people saying, or other people saying, I've never seen that. And then other people saying, it's been great, it's been empty, you know? So it just, I guess, like depends on the timing. It depends on, like, I don't know. Like, it's been hit and miss, I guess, the whole time. There hasn't been like a consecutive, this has been a great experience.
Yeah.
I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people saying that they just got on rides one after another. They went on Peter Pan multiple times. They went on Space Mountain, all these different rides that usually you'd have to wait in a long line for. So it sounds like it was pretty dead, but then there was that picture like you just described of everybody over at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in a big giant clump. And I think that was not necessarily indicative of the rest of the day. So
Yeah.
it's hard to tell because we're all the way across the country, obviously. But it seems like for the most part it was positive. I think, you know, some people messed with the ducks. Some people got in line a little too close to each other at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. But other than that, I've heard mostly positive stuff.
And I'll tell you that one sort of viral photo of the experience of that Seven Dwarfs Mine Train clumping was all I saw of clumping.
Right.
So, you know, one photo out of an entire operating day or an entire preview period of people sort of not social distancing and everybody sort of rushing towards one opening. And it does appear like perhaps that was a situation where it was like they had reopened for the first time after a downtime or something where everybody's rushing in. However, it's important to also realize that that's something they have to deal with.
Yeah.
So, you know, while we certainly understand that there was only the one photo sort of circulating that was a problem at any point, I do want to mention that with Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom official reopening to the general public now, on day one, did see some images of some of that clumping happening outside of guest
Oh, yeah.
relations.
I definitely saw that too.
Yeah, a lot of ticket problems. It sounds like a lot of reservation issues. So people having to line up for guest relations. I saw another video of people in line all the way down the walkway leading back towards the Contemporary Resort. Folks trying to get in.
Yikes, yeah.
It does sound like there's going to be some hiccups when it comes to what Disney does with folks before the parks open. Because
Right.
you're gonna have to corral everybody into one small area before those gates open up.
Yeah.
Sure. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and I did see photos of how they want people, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, you park at Magic Kingdom and then you either get on the monorail or the ferry. I saw photos of the ferry where they had stickers kind of laid across different parts. So this is where one group stands, this is where another group stands. They're not letting people sit on certain benches. So, you know, the ferry's going to have a much lower capacity, but it's good that they're kind of spreading that stuff out. And like the other thing that I really love too, that I was not expecting, I shared some photos with the rest of the group, that rides like Jungle Cruise or the Animal Kingdom Safari, they put plexiglass up all over the place. Even all the lines, like there was another photo that we saw that was from Flight of Passage, and the whole entire queue just had a big giant plexiglass thing going through it. And while it may not look the most beautiful, I think that's just what's required right now, unfortunately. So they did a lot more than I expected.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm curious to see how often they clean this stuff because they put so much plexiglass everywhere. People are still going to touch it.
Right.
So I'm curious how often they're going to start, like, they have to wipe it clean. They have to, like, stop the queue so someone can come in and wipe it clean and, like, disinfect. And how often that's going to be. Because I saw people disinfecting, like, Splash Mountain. And so that seemed really interesting. Like, it was actually pretty cool to see how fast they were doing it, but then pretty thorough. So we'll see.
Have to be all over
I'm waiting
it.
for those videos to be released, so people, please share.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see, the differences in crowd sizes between those annual pass holder previews, cast member previews, and then general public arriving. I would be very interested to see if there is any sort of capacity uptick, if it feels more crowded than the previews do. As to my understanding that the previews and the general public were supposed to be very similar in terms of capacity. So with that in mind, I would hope that they would be sort of limited at the lesser levels. Gared, did you hear anything about Walt Disney World's official preview period leading up to its grand reopening?
Yeah, I have actually. My roommates out in Florida, where I haven't been for several months, they went to the parks and they said that it was actually a pretty cool experience from watching their videos and stuff. It looked fairly empty, and I could tell that they were hot from having to wear the mask. But unfortunately, that is the thing that must be done now. But overall, they said it was a great experience, and from what I've seen via Twitter and YouTube, the emotional experience was amazing because the magic is being released after all this time. They're getting to see the princesses and Mickey and the gang come down Main Street, and for that, it's so uplifting to see, like, what, some sense of normalcy has returned. However, the reality of having to wear masks and the social distancing, that does take a toll on them. But overall, a great experience. The only thing I've seen a sort of hiccup in was some of the queue lines don't make very much sense when it comes to the social distancing. Say, for example, on Jungle Cruise, the indicators where it is to stand are not all evened out. Like, I'd have to show a picture, but some lines aren't as straightforward. Like the queue for Kilimanjaro Safari, straightforward, but for attractions like Big Thunder Mountain and Jungle Cruise, they're sort of windy, so it can be a little confusing by that. But overall, great experience, and I'm curious to see how everything will go now that it's running full-fledged. But overall, things are looking good so far. I just hope everyone follows the rules and that things are getting cleaned.
Yeah, it certainly seems like we're hearing mostly full compliance with mask orders and all of those potential issues that we knew Disney could possibly stumble over from a guest perspective, right? People that they can't necessarily control all the time, maybe trying to make a statement or be vocal or say that they're not in a capacity to wear it. Maybe they have a certain condition. Haven't seen any of those yet. I am kind of counting down the days because I know that viral video is coming at some point. Of somebody challenging the authority of Disney when they go into the kingdoms.
The Karen.
Yes, well, somebody like that. But I will say that it looks very nice from the perspective of entertainment, being sort of circulated through the parks at Animal Kingdom and at Magic Kingdom at random times. There is no sort of set and structured form to the entertainment. It just sort of happens, which to me seems even more magical because you just don't know when it's going to come around the corner at you.
I think it's better that way, so you don't have people lingering and waiting for it to come out.
I think that's the idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
I saw one picture during cast previews of like a whole lineup of people waiting for something to come around. So I think obviously they saw it in a distance and they were just waiting. And I was like, ooh, that's a lot of cluster. Like I got kind of nervous, but then I see other videos and they're like, there's like not a lot of people, except for like one lady was like running, trying to find like a picture of Tinkerbell. Because the one Tinkerbell, that float is so cool.
The treasure chest?
Yeah, she's like sitting on top of a treasure chest. I was like, oh my God, that's like so magical just to see it come around, I like how they're doing the spreading of the characters.
I will say I think it's kind of weird, and we discussed this briefly. I just think it's kind of weird that these characters, the face characters, are not wearing masks. I know that that's part of the Disney image. I know that the magic is supposed to be there and everything, but like we saw that picture of Gaston, and I guess he's trying to stay away from people, but at the same time, I'm like, I could see some, I could see some ignorant person coming in being like, why do I have to wear a mask if Gaston's not wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so I don't know. I just think that's kind of weird. I get what they're going for. I get that their IP is very important to them, but also at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I'm mixed feelings about it. So,
But people surrounding at least Gaston, the cast members, have their masks
poor cast
on.
members that
I
have to be
know.
near Gaston with all of his
They
spit
have-
flying out everywhere.
Does he
Hey,
spit a lot?
Gaston
I didn't know that.
spit is nothing. Gaston spit is nothing short of magical because it's from Gaston.
You would know.
Remember,
Gared would
remember
take
when
his
he
spit
spits?
all day.
10 points for Gaston. 10 points for Gaston. They've gotten really creative with how they do these cavalcades. They brought out the mirror float or the glass float that they had for so many years, which is now iconic. And I like how they brought out Merida on Angus. That's just really, really cool.
Yeah.
Because
I loved that.
How often do you get it? How often do you get to see Merida on a horse? You never do. It's always her on the bagpipes with her brothers popping up.
Yeah, I thought that was cool about
It's like,
Gaston too, with the horse. Yeah, I agree with you, and I like seeing like the country bears up on the balcony and stuff. I think all that stuff is cool, and it's you don't get to like interact exactly with the characters, but it is awesome to see them doing something new, right? That's what I think is neat.
And they can react to you at a distance. So, you know, the way in which this is being handled, I think, is probably the best way it could have been,
Yeah.
given the fact that, you know, they are so restricted in what they're able to do at this point. And I will say, for the amount of people that are suddenly outraged that Walt Disney World has reopened, where were you 6 weeks ago when Universal Studios Orlando reopened? You know, long before any of this happened, there seems to be a tremendous amount of rage sort of trouncing everywhere online, and people suddenly reacting to the fact that a major theme park has reopened. Theme parks have been reopening all the way up until this point. This is just the latest one. So Walt Disney World certainly has to get this one right. Speaking of getting it right, 11,000 new cases of coronavirus were found overnight as part of the Florida surging coronavirus cases. And with that, knowing that this pandemic is not going anywhere anytime soon, and that Disney is trying to get back to some semblance of normalcy by welcoming guests back, the governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, said he thinks that it's all speed ahead, that there is no reason to pull back now. I mean, they are kind of in the thick of it. I guess to pull back now would to admit defeat. He does say, quote, Disney, I have no doubt, is going to be a safe environment. I think that where you start to see the spread is just in social situations where people let their guard down, usually like a private party or something like that. Theme parks have been doing great. I mean, Universal, look at what they're doing, and I think that's the lesson. We have to have society function through this. You have society function in a way that keeps people safe, and when you have all different procedures they have in place, it's a safe environment, end quote. So the tale of two governors right now. You have Governor DeSantis of Florida, Governor Newsom of California. Newsom and the state of California still not even allowing Disneyland reopening guidelines at the moment, like in terms of just even guidance on what that's going to look like. They said after the 4th of July. It's now well after the 4th of July and still nothing on that front. Whereas we have Florida kind of going full speed ahead in a situation where originally when Disney had proposed the reopening of their theme parks along with other theme park entities in Florida, cases were at a much more manageable rate. And this just goes to show you how fast things can change. But you have a governor who's not pulling back at all, and then you have a governor that is not allowing anything really to happen in his state. So now you're seeing sort of a choice, fall to the public. Do you want to go to Disney? And if so, it has to be Florida. Or are you willing to hold out and just wait until all this is over? Knowing that Disney World is opening in the middle of some of the highest numbers that they've seen in terms of the state of Florida, is that something that would concern you at all, Tyler, from visiting Walt Disney World?
Well, yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I think if I lived in Florida, maybe I would feel a little bit different about it, and I would get out there possibly. But I just, I think the governor of Florida is not wrong in that it could be done safely, but everybody just needs to cooperate is really the main thing.
It's a great point, yeah.
I feel like a lot of people just they don't want to cooperate, and that's the biggest problem. I think it's a little bit weird to say like, oh, private parties are more dangerous than Disneyland, because that's just ridiculous to me. Because people that are at a party are going to like care about one another, and they're going to have their rules, and I think that would be a lot safer than going to Disney World. But again, I brought up the plexiglass earlier. I see that Disney's really trying. I just want the guests to try, and I hope that they don't give the cast members a hard time. But right now, just because I have to travel, Disney World sounds like a bad idea to me. But I mean, frankly, we're going to go to downtown Disney later today, so it's one of those things where, you know, we're going to be giving it a shot, and we're going to see how it goes, and if we feel uncomfortable, we'll leave. But I don't know. It's just, I think it's more the traveling that gets me scared than actually being there.
Absolutely. And Gared, have you heard anything on the front of Florida, Walt Disney World, and cast member friends? Anybody concerned about going to work, or has it mostly been a, we feel safe, we feel good about this?
From the cast member friends that I have, they were excited to get back to work, to make that magic again. I'm sure part of that is because they love their job, and also partially because the extra $600 of unemployment will soon be going away. But no, they've said that everything seems good so far, that if they want a face covering, they can get that. My best friend's wife, she works in resorts, and she says that on the pool deck, it's safe, secure, and it's hot. But other than that, everything is going smooth. And she always says, like, the main thing what it comes down to is the cast members are going to follow the rules because they have to, because they don't want to make Mickey mad. It comes down to the guests following the rules. It's always easy for you to follow the rules. It's hard to get the massive group. And I'd like to quote Star Trek. I know not Star Wars, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few and the one. Like, I don't know, Spock doesn't lie when it comes to that. The needs of the many, which is all of us, is more important than yourself. So I say if you want to go follow the rules, and that's what it comes down to.
You know, I think you also raised a good point in the idea of, just following the rules and obviously working with other people. Governor DeSantis mentioning there also, I think that ties into this, is like, we have to learn to kind of function with this as a society right now. I don't disagree with that. I mean, at this point, all the damage has been done, unfortunately, in terms of our society and in terms of the economy and in terms of this death rate. And like, there's a lot that has happened to the point that it's like, well, do we stay shut down until July of next year, and nobody goes to work and nobody goes out, and you have to learn how to handle something like this in a modern era where we haven't really been pressed to handle anything like this anytime in our modern existence. So I definitely think that learning how to deal with it is smart. Trying to understand that not everybody has the same or the right frame of mind, I think, is the real hassle here, the real problem. And so knowing that Downtown Disney has come back online here in California, that you guys are venturing out to experience it. It is something that I think, knowing that you have the ability to go, but at the same time are willing to pull back and say, okay, well, I don't feel good about it now that I'm here and I see, either how many more people are around or how uncomfortable it's become, knowing that you have the ability to pull back and walk away, I think is fantastic. But so many people that go to a place like Walt Disney World, right? That international destination where so many individuals, and I know right now internationally it's not really something a lot of people can do, but it's a place that people come from far and wide to visit and spend a lot of money on visiting. And we've all talked about in recent broadcasts that they don't necessarily have the ability to experience the same things that they once did, and they're still paying the same amount. And they go into an environment like this, and if it's not what they expected, just walking away, for the sake of saying I feel unsafe, that's a hard pill to swallow when you've spent so much money. So those demands, I think, are definitely going to fit into the guest relations model, and we'll see how Disney deals with it. But very interesting to know that while Disney World is back on track, that we are seeing 2 theme parks reopen. In a couple of days, we will also be seeing Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios join the list in the middle of a pandemic with surging numbers. However, it is nice to see that death rate has kind of dropped off a little bit. And then on top of that, we are witnessing, depending on where you are in certain states, lesser ICU visits, and then to a certain degree, more ICU visits. It's all in where you're at. We hope for Disney's sake that they get this right and that they nail it moving forward. Face masks are a thing that we all have to deal with now in our modern society, as well as Walt Disney World. Disney property has gone to great lengths to make sure that their guests are as safe as possible, that they all abide by a certain set of rules. And now it looks like Disney has changed the rules, tweaked the rules a little bit when it comes to face masks, when it comes to what you can wear and how. We take a look at a story here recently reported talking about that, where it does appear that gator masks, am I saying that right? Gator masks are something that people are no longer able to wear on Disney property. The official language is as follows, saying that face coverings are required for all guests ages 2 and up and cast members. They say, please bring your own face coverings and wear them at all times except when dining or swimming. All face coverings, whether disposable or reusable, must be made with at least 2 layers of breathable material, fully cover the nose and mouth and secure under the chin, and fit snugly but comfortably against the side of the face. They must also be secured with ties or ear loops and allow the guests to remain hands-free. At this time, based on guidance from health authorities, neck gaiters and open chin triangle bandanas are not acceptable face coverings. I noticed a lot of people in photos as well as videos of folks that have returned not only to the theme parks but also to downtown Disney in California wearing those gaiters as well as bandanas as a source of covering their face. For the longest time, we've all been told just something to cover your face. Now Disney's getting a little bit more specific about that. Does that, from a safety perspective, make you feel more comfortable, Katrina?
I do. I feel a lot more safe. I mean, there was a couple people that I follow on Twitter that wear gaiters. They feel more comfortable with gaiters on. But then there are other people saying, well, I wore a gaiter on a roller coaster and it kept slipping the whole time and I had to keep lifting it up. So I feel a lot safer that Disney finally was just like, no gaiters, no neck bandanas, because again, it's not really covering all of your face and then it keeps probably dropping while you're on rides. So, and then what's the point? You just keep touching your face to keep bringing it back up. So it's just pointless at this point. So I'm glad that they did this.
What do you think, Tyler? I mean, a unique change to the face mask rule now.
I'm happy with it. I think it even says in their news release that they had like health professionals tell them, hey, listen, this, if you want to get really serious about it, this is what has to happen. And excuse me, anecdotally, I saw on Facebook somebody saying that. Why is that my word now?
That word. I don't know why. It's just such a funny
You're so
word.
silly.
I know.
Anyway, go ahead.
But I will say that I saw on Facebook that somebody said, I'm glad they made the change because frankly I wore a neck gaiter and I could just feel my hot air coming through that thing like nobody's business. And he was just like, I knew it really didn't do that much, but it was kind of the thing I went with, And I was like, okay, cool. If that guy feels that way and he's willing to admit that, then, that's something that needs to happen. And let's face it, like the bandanas, they're just kind of hanging down around your face and everything's going to come out the sides. And, I know that we all know that face masks are not 100% foolproof and things like that, but just any little bit that can help, in my opinion, is good for all of us.
Touching of your face, because it's probably going to keep going because it's not really tied or secured around your ears or your head. Yeah. So it's just going to keep slipping, and then you're going to have to keep touching your face to bring it back up.
Yeah, and I just imagine too with like a bandana, you're just going to be fiddling around with it on the back of your head all day, and then you're going to be touching things, and you're going to be sweating while you're in Florida, so then your sweat's going to get on things, right? Like it's just.
How are you supposed to wear a gaiter going on like the Hulk at Universal?
Yeah.
I've never personally ridden it, but I can just imagine it goes really fast and it goes around a couple times.
It does go really fast and it goes around.
So slipping off of your face, and you're trying to go like this the whole time to keep it up, so it doesn't really make any sense.
And listen, I'm going to follow anything that health professionals say. So if health professionals told Disney, no, this is really how it should be, and Disney feels strongly about it, then I'm going to go with it.
Awesome. And Gared, do you wear a gaiter, or are you somebody that strictly sets himself to a face mask that meets Disney's requirements?
I am going to stick with the face mask that meets Disney's requirement. I'm going to take it off though.
I feel like he needs to show what to do and what not to do right now on the face mask so people can understand exactly what is going on. How do you wear it?
Yeah.
Welcome aboard Kingdom Report Flight 709 on how to put on a face mask. Step 1, you're going to take the ear holes like so. You're going to put it around the ears.
Oh, that looks right.
And adjust. Yeah.
And make sure
see
you
the
have your nose
tracking-
covered, right, everybody?
Yes,
And you have to
Yes,
help
yes.
yourself
I've seen-
before you help others.
I've seen people
Yeah.
do this. And
That's a no.
No, that's a
Steph,
no.
If I can put my
Ew.
fingers
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
don't put your fingers in there.
All right, everybody.
if you don't want your fingers up your nose, then you don't want stuff that can get you sick up your nose. Boom, fun fact right there. But no.
What a
I've
beautiful
tried
hostess he
bandana-
is.
And we have complimentary Coke products as well. but I prefer face masks. I got a bandana, and while it's a cool bandana, I was trying to think like, how did like stagecoach robbers keep it on their face if I can't even keep it while walking into a store? So bandanas don't really work, and I felt all the air and stuff coming up underneath. And gaiters, in Florida, they're typically used like if you're going on a boat, if you're going fishing, to like keep the sun off you or bugs. But no, these face masks, especially the ones Disney has made, I really like them. They're a nice soft material. Sure, they might attract water to them, but that's just how it is in Florida. In Florida, you take a shower on Monday and you're not dry until Saturday when you fly home. That's just how it is. But
And I'm sure
but no,
Disney would
these-
love for you to wear their brands all day on your face, right?
Oh,
That's what
absolutely!
Disney wants.
I'm all about that. I actually have a few ideas. I'm thinking like a Captain Jack Sparrow one. Like I want the mustache and all of that. I want little dangly beads.
With little
I
beads
think
hanging
that-
down from it, I'd be into that.
a Buzz Lightyear one would be pretty cool.
I like that.
Maybe Hatbox Ghost, his mischievous smile.
Ooh, I would get a hot box
or
ghost.
or I want like a picture. I want like Walt Disney's face on there.
I don't know if
That'd
that'd
be
be cool with that
kinda-
one.
I don't know how many people would
No,
get that,
probably,
but
probably not that one. But no, their face masks are really cool. Ariel has a Winnie the Pooh one. There's also a rainbow flag one. There's one with the princesses on it. There's so many different ones out there. So I think Disney got really creative when they could have just done like Disney. But no, they got creative with some of their designs. So I like their face masks. It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
well, very good. Yeah, no more gators, no more bandanas. Make sure that your face masks meet the requirements prior to arriving to Disney, as they have gone ahead and tweaked their policy just a little bit as we sort of live with this new normal. I know we can't wait until we don't have to wear those things anymore, but until then, that is where the mask game stands. Downtown Disney officially reopened this past week. It was something where a lot of people decided to show up all at once, as we also saw with Disney Springs out in Walt Disney World. Lots of folks all deciding to be the first, all deciding to come experience it. We also saw a video surface online that circulated quite a bit of everybody sort of mobbing the World of Disney store, trying to get specific merchandise that was exclusive or unique. Again, I reiterate, when it comes to these reopening day things, there seems to be one or two bad photos or videos that surface of things that shouldn't be, and then for the most part, that's it. So again, all things in perspective here, all things in context. One incident does not constitute something that went on all day long or in all locations. Now, having said that, Downtown Disney, Katrina, how did it go? What have you heard?
I heard that when it first opened, it was chaotic. There was people sleeping overnight to get in there. And we all know, let's all say it out loud, they're eBay pirates. They're the ones that are trying to get the loot. They're trying to sell it. And that's what these videos are all about that are being posted. It's like the first time going to World of Disney. Everybody's trying to get the hands on the 65th anniversary stuff that was just released. They want to grab it, sell it quickly on eBay to make their money. And then they leave. So the first videos that you've seen are probably like the first like couple hours most likely of Downtown Disney opening. And then at that point, there's nobody left because they're all gone at home taking pictures and trying to get it on eBay. And then the second day I heard that there was literally nobody there. It was like, you know, like a couple people here and there, but it wasn't like crazy. And that's what happened at Disney Springs. The first day, it was all eBay people and people just trying to step foot on there, Instagrammers trying to get their pictures. And then the second day, there was nobody. And that's pretty much like what's going to happen at like Disneyland when it probably opens, and Disney World most likely. It's going to like kind of die down later in the afternoons.
And at Magic Kingdom, as well as Disney's Animal Kingdom on opening day, we did see some of those photos, some of those videos of like an initial crowd rush. Did not see those throughout the rest of the day at this point. Things could change, you know, maybe more will surface. But Tyler, did you hear any different about Downtown Disney?
No, actually, I've kind of heard a similar thing. I was talking to our buddy Mike from Laughing Place, and he basically told, I talked to him about how crazy that video that we just showed was, and he just said, yeah, that was the beginning of the day. By the time he showed up, there wasn't anything like that. He said that people were pretty spaced apart. The restaurants looked like they were handling things okay, and he just said that the biggest problem was there was a big line of cars to get in, but that was, again, first day opening. I also heard that people spent the night out on Harbor and stuff to get into downtown Disney, which to me sounds like
worth it.
You're
Yeah.
insane. I'm just going to come out and say it. You're insane for doing that. But I do have to say that Disney, I feel like, should have prepared that a little bit better.
They should have known. Yeah.
Because that was something where they knew that people were going to rush for that 65th stuff, and they should have just like, here's an area for the 65th. There's going to be a line to get in, or, socially distanced line or something like that, or at least do what they did over in Florida, right? Where to get people in World of Disney, you had to sign up on an iPad and then get in. Like, I just feel like they should have done something more like that.
I thought they did.
Did they not? They did
I
that?
thought they did,
Oh.
but I think people like just bum rushed that particular area, and that's where that video surfaced.
And again, that's what I
Okay.
mean with every
Splash
perspective here. Obviously one area of display that has everything everybody wants. Of course, you're going to see a crush of humanity for it,
Yeah.
especially when things first open and that's all anybody wants. Especially knowing that there was a camp out basically for this experience. Everybody wanted to rush in and,
Yeah.
and grab that stuff.
Yeah.
But like as I know, Tiki Andy has said a couple times, like he, and he's totally right. Like, think about how long the 60th anniversary went on for.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the 65th is going to go on quite as long because they're not really displaying it as such a big event. But the 60th anniversary lasted for like 2 years almost. Like, I think it was about that long. So they're still going to have plenty of merchandise available. It's just people that, again, Katrina said, eBay pirates and stuff, who are just like kind of making it harder on everybody who just wants to have a good time. But yeah, I think overall Downtown Disney seems to be handling it okay, and that's why we're going to go today and check it out for ourselves. So,
And if I see clusters, I'm leaving very
Yeah.
quickly.
yeah, definitely.
Should be far less impacted, as we again saw with Disney Springs. We do think that downtown Disney, not a whole lot to offer right off the bat. Still a lot of things that are closed down or operating in sort of a limited capacity. We do look forward to the announcement of when Disneyland Park and California Adventure Park are officially allowed to reopen. But until that time, downtown Disney will have to suffice. Josh D'Amaro is the Disney Parks, Resorts, Experiences, and Beyond chairman, a guy with a lot of goodwill who was most recently president of Walt Disney World, before that president of Disneyland, and before that held some VP spots in Walt Disney World. He's a guy that has, again, a lot of goodwill, a lot of credibility that people really seem to like. We celebrated the fact that he was named chairman of Parks and Resorts here on this show because he gets it. He's a huge fan of what Disney stands for. He's a huge fan of the cast members and a major advocate for all those things. Recently, he defended Walt Disney World's theme park reopening in a New York Times interview. He shared a lot of things in this New York Times discussion, basically saying that, it's time. It's time. The magic is ready to go. We're doing everything as safe as possible. Are moving forward with accountability measures. We are going to do this the right way the first time. And so knowing that he, in this New York Times article, is trying to be, more so than anything, I think a face to a relatively faceless corporation in terms of, it's mostly just that animated mouse that you see a lot. But for theme parks, for the longest time, it was somebody who was, really missing in action. It was somebody that a lot of people didn't like to turn to necessarily to see. And that was Bob Chapek. He's now the CEO of the company. But Josh is somebody that has had a lot of understanding of the parks worldwide. He has a great grasp on what cast members desire. He has a great grasp on what guests need. And, he was saying basically this is our new normal. It's our new reality. COVID is here, he says, and we have responsibility to figure out the best approach to safely operate in this new normal. Businesses across the country are open, whether it's a local pizza shop in Orlando or an airline taking on new guests. Obviously, with Shanghai Disneyland reopening, Hong Kong Disneyland reopening, Disneyland Paris reopening, all the parks are coming back online. It's nice to know somebody is advocating for the parks, and somebody with such goodwill is standing tall and saying, this is the right thing to do right now. However, I worry that his credibility is taking a hit because in one situation, you have Walt Disney World theme parks reopening on one side of the country, and it's safe to do so. And then on the other side of the country, here in California, you have Disneyland theme parks that aren't even being allowed to reopen at this point. And there's nowhere near the same amount of surging cases as there is in Florida. Are we concerned at all, Tyler, that maybe Josh's credibility is going to take a hit on this one? It's nice to see somebody standing for the parks, that's for sure. It's been a long time, but I'm a little worried about this.
Yeah, I mean, as I say pretty much all the time when we talk about Corona stuff, I'm just very unsure about the whole situation. I'm not a health professional or anything like that, so I just have to go based what I hear and what my common sense tells me. But I personally think it is very early to do things like theme parks. I think something like Downtown Disney is a little bit different because you're not waiting in crazy lines for the most part. You're going to be sitting far away from each other if you go to a restaurant, something like that. But just a theme park situation where you're going to be sitting next to somebody, especially like on an Animal Kingdom safari for, a good, what is that ride, like 20 minutes long? I mean, I know they put the plexiglass up and stuff, but honestly, and I've seen a lot of people, talking about this interview, and it just kind of sounded almost like he's just like more interested in the stockholders and things like that. Like that's honestly kind of the vibe that comes across, and so that's a little bit of a bummer. So in that regard, yeah, I think he is losing some credibility, but at the same time, he's got to be the face of the theme parks, and if the higher ups, and he's pretty high up, don't get me wrong, but if everybody wants the parks to open, then he kind of has to save face for the company, right? Like his main goal is to protect that company. So, yeah, it's a mixed feeling from me for sure.
And Gared, he's also quoted as saying, "The world is changing around us, but we strongly believe that we can open safely and responsibly. For those that might have questions or concerns when they see how we are operating and the aggressive protocols that we have put in place, they will understand." As a former cast member yourself, would you feel comfortable going back to work right now?
With Josh at my back, I probably would, but I was in a different circumstance than other people. We're working in entertainment. You typically get treated a lot better than other departments because you're so small and your job is to make the magic come to life. And seeing how entertainment is going on right now, they seem like they have as much safety as anyone else. The cast members that I would be most concerned for would be the ride operators, the custodial, as well as quick serve food and beverage. They are going to be the ones that are going to be engaging most with the guests, along with guest relations. So for them, it's good to see that they have the option of not only wearing a mask, but also having a face shield as well. But for myself, I would feel confident, but I cannot speak for everyone because my situation when I worked for the company was completely different than everyone else's, and I didn't work for them during this time, so I can't speak for others. But for myself, I would feel confident in knowing that at least I'm being protected as best as I can. Again, it comes down to how will the guests react, how will the guests follow the rules. If the guests follow the rules, then you feel good. If the guests don't follow the rules, then you probably feel a little hesitant in returning to work. Like if you see 30 people in one family, I'll be like, I'm not wearing my mask, it's too hot. Then I'd feel worse, and I'd be calling for leadership, being like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that group coming down Main Street. But until that time, we'll just have to wait and see. But I would feel good coming back. My heart goes out to Josh. He is definitely going to be taking a few punches, but hopefully it won't be a setback that won't keep him from going forward, because he's a great guy. He seems confident, and he's the face of the company that you want to have right now. If you see him smiling, I feel a little bit more confident than I would if I see some other guy named Bob.
And I think I said it here when he was named chairman of Parks and Resorts, that they're putting him in that spot because there's so much bad news to come. And I was convinced of it because nobody is more likable than this guy in the company right now. Nobody, I think, is more visible outside of those senior executive positions of Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, than Josh DeMauro. He's somebody that Disney Parks fans all seem to know and cherish. Katrina, his statements, do they make you feel good? Are you happy he's defending the reopening of the parks? Do you think it can bite him?
When I heard about it, I kind of was like, wait a minute, hold on. Did Chapek possess his body? I was a little weary because, again, I think like Tyler was right. He's trying to like please the investors. That's pretty much what he's doing. And I personally don't think it's safe enough to open up the whole resort of Disney World compared to like everything else. I mean, everybody's saying like, Universal's open, it's safe, it's going on, it's fine. But Universal compared to Disney World is like half the size.
Sure.
Easily manageable compared to Disney World. And I just feel like it's a little too soon, especially like even with the cast members and stuff. I feel that they're put in harm's way, and Disney World can do whatever they can to make it safe, but it's up to the guests to make it even safer. And I don't know, I'm kind of like 50-50 on what Josh is trying to say, and like I'm trying to go for him, be like, okay, Josh, it could be safe. I kind of trust you a little bit, but it's that face, man. You kind of have to feel like you have to trust it because he has a kind face, I suppose. But deep down, I'm like, Chapek's in there. I know it.
He did it for the hair.
It's like some
That's right.
Ghostbusters stuff,
I will say though, like, make no mistake, they're putting their cast members on the front line, like, which is a really
They should pay him more.
They should honestly, yeah, for what the cast members go through, there should really be some type of compensation for it, in my opinion. And it just kind of seems like a couple of the things that I've heard from our friends is like that they haven't been treating them necessarily the greatest, at least on the Disneyland side. Because it's kind of like, oh, if you're not going to accept our, you can say no this time, but if you say no next time, then you're out. Like
In
stuff
terms
like
of
that.
coming off of like furlough or something
Yeah,
like that?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it doesn't sound like they're necessarily treating them all with the most respect, and that's a huge bummer to hear. And we have to remember that we're putting human beings on the front line who may not feel comfortable with this situation, but maybe just have to do it because otherwise they're going to lose this job that they've had for who knows how many years or whatever. So
10 years,
yeah,
God knows.
I mean,
you worked so long for it, and then for something to happen like this, and then you have to quit because you don't feel comfortable, and then you have to try to find another job. Like, that's not, it's easier said than done,
Sure.
But I just hope that what Josh is doing, he knows that the cast members are like very important people, and they need to be shown that they're important,
yeah,
and
definitely.
not give them like double. They should just get monetary value. They should get like a little bit of like a little something something. Don't give them a happy birthday or congratulations, you did a great job, Rice Krispie treat.
And something that he was doing
Opening day.
in the middle of this shutdown, something that he was doing that I even shared with you guys was, he was going to employee homes to celebrate their milestone anniversaries with the company, and doing extra special things for them, even though they weren't working at that point. He was finding them in their homes. He was finding them in locations offsite, just to make sure that they felt appreciated, just to make sure that they felt respected. Most leaders don't do that, even in Disney. So he's somebody that I think has a great deal of respect for the cast member. He's somebody that I think has a great deal of respect for guests. But at the same time, he does have to please shareholders. They all do. Mm-hmm. And if Disney gets this wrong, we've said it before, if they miscalculate on this one, if a bunch of COVID-19 cases are tracked back to Disney World
We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this starts to become a real problem. That's going to change everything, isn't it?
Definitely.
So we want them to succeed. We want them to win. We want Josh to continue defending parks in all the right ways. We just worry, I think, a little bit in terms of what could potentially happen, as it seems like every day this matter evolves. Every day this pandemic gets more and more hairy, and things keep changing. So we hope, for the sake of cast members, frontline workers, and any guest that decides to visit, that nothing bad happens to them, and that all the magic is there to be found. More Kingdom Report Live for you next.
Hey Kingdom team, do you need more magic in your life? We understand, which is why we connect you to more of what makes you happy 3 times a week. Catch our theme park coverage, vlogs, and reviews every Tuesday and Thursday. And experience the Kingdom Report Live, streaming every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. That's new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, crafted with you in mind. Don't miss out. Be sure to subscribe and activate notifications at The Kingdom Report on YouTube, and catch every update throughout the week at Kingdom Report Live on social media. See you there!
Kingdom Team All Call time. You know what that means, right? Question and answer time. You have questions for us. We have answers for you. When it comes down to it, you can send those questions in at reportlive.com or at Kingdom Report Live on social media. You can also leave the comments down below. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, go ahead, leave us a comment, ask us a question. We will get to it eventually, I promise. Here with us today, Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzone, Gared, Hassel, all to discuss the questions that you have for us. And our first question comes to us from Trish Bayer. Trish asks us, now that Splash Mountain will be getting an overhaul because of its problematic storyline, do you imagine the Hall of Presidents or Country Bear Jamboree might be next? So, interesting question for sure, especially as this was something that I was already referencing with you guys was, okay, now that Splash Mountain is changing storyline suddenly, especially due to all of those recent headlines and all of the social pressure coming in, Splash Mountain flipping the script and now becoming all about the Princess and the Frog, leaving that, again, problematic storyline behind of the Song of the South film that most people have never seen, but does definitely have roots in something that many consider to be unsavory and pretty horrific based on where the story comes from. However, we are now in a place where there could very well be a potential for seeking out other attractions that might play off of potential stereotypes or might be in a situation where these attractions perhaps were far more relevant a long time ago and maybe the storyline doesn't fit the most woke of ages today. And I think Country Bear Jamboree was something that I had referenced with you guys. Country Bears, while it may seem very wholesome on the front, is something that is basically about bears playing off of human stereotypes. There's that. Hall of Presidents, I think more so than anything, plays off of the idea of the presidency as a role, not necessarily any one person, which is why all the presidents are in the Hall of Presidents, and you have all those audio animatronics together, but it's political. And we've seen more and more in the last, I think since the Clinton era, we've seen the standing president having more of a role in the attraction and having things to say as part of the attraction too. And so with that, we've watched as more and more politics have sort of seeped into the experience itself. Most recently, as Donald Trump had become president, not only was there a long wait for that attraction to reopen with his audio animatronic, which I thought was very strange because it took forever to finally get that show in action. But even up until Disney World shut down due to the pandemic, there were still security officers staged inside the theater when you entered to sort of make that presence known that we're watching, we're here, and we're going to ask you to leave if you get rowdy and scream at a robot president. So what do you guys think? This is a very interesting question and something that I don't think is too far off. Katrina?
I mean, I know there's like something going around Twitter where Disney sent some kind of survey out. How would you feel about Country Bear Jamboree being redone? And again, I don't know, like it's about stereotypes and stuff. And I mean, I don't like it anyway. He does.
Because you're wrong.
But again, I feel like maybe in the beginning of the show, they should say that this is, made at certain time, this is based off of like an old thing, and to kind of like make it a preliminary, again, like it's like PG-13, why is it PG-13, and like stating what's wrong with what's going on and saying like this was created back in the time, blah 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 blah, and it was okay back then, and then keeping it, I guess. I don't know. Hall of Presidents, I could care less. I hate the new one, obviously, redone, so that maybe should be something different.
Why do you hate the new one?
I don't like Trump.
Okay. So some point right there, you have a situation where somebody doesn't like who the most vocal centerpiece is, and they like limited his dialogue this time as opposed to prior presidents. So he even has less of an influence at this
They
point.
should just made him quiet and sit in the back. But that's just me.
You know what? And in the next election, depending on who wins, if he does not move forward in that capacity, he will. He'll get moved to a back place in the hall, like all the other presidents of the past do. You now see Barack Obama sort of like sifted off to one end, and he doesn't have a whole lot of influence on the show anymore. So maybe just adjusting that storyline to not have the modern day president that stokes all of these emotions out of people politically. Maybe not having them speak, to begin with, would probably save the show entirely.
But then that person will get pissy.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll make Trump the projectionist.
Oh, that could happen.
I think that's a good job for him. Anyway, I'm going to move on from the political stuff, but
Terrible.
But I mean, I could potentially see these changes happening. I almost wonder if they're asking about Country Bear more for the fact that it's got very little like attendance, more than like the stereotype stuff. And for me, Splash Mountain is a lot different than Country Bears because Country Bears kind of stereotypes a lot of different types of people, I feel like, whereas there was just one stereotype for Splash Mountain for the most part. So that was just a much more glaring, obvious thing to change. But Hall of Presidents, I don't think they're going to make a huge change to it personally. I think that the one that I would look out for the most, though, personally for me, is Jungle Cruise. Because Jungle Cruise has a lot of different, it's got a lot of different things going on for it that, while they may be semi-accurate, it also could be construed as cultural appropriation. And I think that Jungle Cruise has more of an issue with that sort of usage than a lot of other things. That being said, I love tiki things, which is, you could also think of that as cultural appropriation and stuff. I love that kitschy tiki stuff, but, it's just, I think that none of these rides are going to be like safe from change. And, I know that people use the quote all the time, but, Disneyland is not a museum. It is, something that's going to evolve and change forever. And that's just going to be the way it is. And people are going to get upset like, no, that's my childhood. And it's like, well, how about you take your children that you have now and give them new experiences? Am I going to miss Splash Mountain? Yeah, I am. But I understand that it's just not something that we need in the culture anymore. So, it's okay to move along sometimes.
And Gared, your thoughts on whether or not we are going to see some other attractions maybe be altered or toyed with when it comes to this sort of new way of doing things?
As for new attractions other than the ones mentioned, I can't think of any at the top. I honestly just want Space Mountain to just be overhauled and not be terrible at Magic Kingdom. But as for Country Bear Jamboree, I can see that being changed. You know what? Since they're revamping Splash, can we move those audio animatronics into there so that way they have a place to? Oh, that's probably
get out of here.
No, I'm joking. There's been long talks that they would do like a Toy Story thing of like Woody's Roundup in there. Like that's possible because it is in Frontierland. Hall of Presidents, I say gut the entire thing, turn it into Hamilton or Muppets reliving U.S. history.
I'm okay with
I'm down for
Muppets.
that. Yeah,
I'm all for it.
The more Muppets at Disney, the better. Because just have Sam Eagle give a glorious finale. I don't know the time. There's no time constraint anymore. But I've watched Hamilton so many times that maybe if they did Hall of Presidents to a rap, that would go a lot better. Like I want to see Abraham Lincoln drop a beat.
I would like that. Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter and rapper. Thank you very much.
Wow.
We are hearing that from within the Disney company that there is a rumored sort of board that has been established as of last year, and it's like an internal attractions diversity and values review board. Deep within the company, very quietly, this has been formed, we're being told, and with that comes reviews of attractions that might not necessarily be something that the general public is all going to be accepting of. Splash Mountain, of course, being one of those. The American Adventure is also on that list in Epcot. The Hoop-Dee-Doo. Believe it or not, that show is also apparently being looked at. Carousel of Progress, It's a Small World, and Peter Pan's Flight, all for questionable scenes that may otherwise inflame, upset, or bother certain demographics of people. So there is a real potential that we're going to see altered attractions, a real potential that we are going to see the attractions that we knew no longer being the same based on certain elements, certain scenes. I would imagine that a lot of attractions will be kept. However, maybe scene storylines could very well be altered based on everything that we're hearing from within the company. Again, all rumors at this point. I don't know anybody specific that has ties to this group, but apparently it exists. And based on how fast we saw Splash Mountain and that announcement happen with Princess and the Frog being the retheme and saying it's already been in the works for over a year, that was very interesting to me, and it makes a lot more sense with that context, knowing that there might already be sort of a review board in place that's been looking at these things to begin with. Whether you agree with it or not, seems to be the way in which our society is moving. Whether you agree with the Hall of Presidents being a place that needs to be altered, removed, if you're one of those people that decides to go into Hall of Presidents and scream at a robot, perhaps maybe just detach your emotion from a human figure that does not necessarily carry all that power on your life. You are here. You are somebody that gets to voice your concern. You are somebody that gets to share your thoughts and emotions, but when you're in a place like Disney, it's supposed to be forgotten about. And I understand that by bringing in, especially for a situation like, I think Country Bear Jamboree, I think masks it really well. I think it's over a lot of people's heads that those are stereotypes of people. But you go in a place like the Hall of Presidents, and those are real people, right? Real people that we have really dealt with in life. Some of us going back decades, some of us only modern and, presently that we are dealing with. But just knowing that these attractions might be touched up, altered, it's a very real possibility that we are going to have to live with down the line if and when they do get touched up. So we'll see what happens, but great question, Trish. We appreciate you reaching out and asking our perspective on the matter. Kingdom Report Live finishes up for you next.
Do you know everything the ghost host is going to say before he says it? Are you ready to thank the Venetians each time you board Spaceship Earth? Can you recite Walt's opening day dedication speech? Then join the Kingdom team today, the influential Legacy fan community featuring exclusive merchandise that will alert all who've come to this happy place that you are more than just another guest. You are a trusted theme park fan. Don't miss out. Join the Kingdom team right now by visiting the homepage at kingdomreportlive.com. That's kingdomreportlive.com. And now, back to the magic.
No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, no matter what you stand for, we're grateful to have you with us. We are grateful that you were able to tune in and be a part of the broadcast. And remember that the legacy of Walt Disney, well, it lives on because of people like you and me. We'll be here once again next week for you, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, for an all-new Kingdom Report Live.